Hello and thank you for joining us on this edition of the program from the National Assembly. I am Lami Ali. The House of Representatives Committee on Commerce invited the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investments to discuss the influx of substandard goods into Nigeria. That is our package on the program today. House Committee on Commerce has met with the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investments towards addressing challenges in the sector.
The ministry is launching about vehicles to the zonal office, because apart from having coordinators in each state of the Federation and Abuja, we also have zonal offices on all 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. And you'll agree with me that if you are asked to monitor, say Northwest, for instance, where there are 7 states, and you don't have a vehicle to move around, it is almost impossible. But I'm happy to announce that the Permanent Secretary has approved the procurement of 6 vehicles for the zonal officers in the zones, and by next week we are giving them the vehicles, and he is going to talk to them to ask them to double their efforts in the course of their duties. I agree with you, sir. There are issues rightly that you have said, and we are working hard about that, because the personnel, if you ask for appointment, recruitment of staff, you know how difficult it is. That was why I'm always happy to announce that we have just employed about 150, and we need more and more. Maybe the Permanent Secretary will talk to you about that with a view to assisting us to have more hands on deck, because that is the only way we can cover this country. This Nigeria is large.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before now, Mr. Chairman, before I joined politics, I was a practicing engineer. And Mr. Chairman, I can tell you, there is no bag of cement that is 50 kg. Yes, sir. I'm telling you of the one I use, sir. But the ones I used during my studies in school for learning purposes, experiments and the rest of them, and the ones I also encountered on the field, you hardly can find a bag of cement that is 50 kg. And that is also contributing to failure of buildings and structures in Nigeria. That is number one. Number two, Mr. Chairman, presently I am a practicing farmer. There is no bag of fertilizer that is 50 kg. And that is a huge concern to me. And I think, Mr. Chairman, like it was suggested in the Federal Produce and Inspection Services Department, I feel, Mr. Pamsek, you have to involve other ways of meeting up this demand. The problem we have with this department in the ministry is not that they are not working, it's that they are understaffed, hugely understaffed, to be able to man all the areas that are of interest to the country. And so I think it is good that you work out a solution to this. If you can empower the private sector to also assist you, while they are under your own control, it is going to go a long way in helping us to defend the Nigerian people and also keep to standard of so many things that are going down in this country. And I think that is also very important. Farmers have been cheated. Fertilizer is now 17,000. And yet you cannot get it 50 kg. Some are 47 kg. Some are 45 kg. The one that is the best is 49 kg. And if I buy 1 trailer of fertilizer and you take 1 kg from 1 trailer of fertilizer, that is 600 bucks. That is 600 kg. You can imagine that is about 30 tons already out, because that's about 3 tons, taken out. So I think it is very important that we look at this sector. Let us diverse our knowledge of this sector and look at it very critically and see how we can bring in people, because it will be very difficult for us to approve for you to employ, because your employment comes from the Civil Service Commission. And if you say you're going to employ, they will tell you, no, we don't have such capabilities to employ that much for you. So I think it's very, very important that you look at a specialized way in handling the works of this department, because this department is very critical to all of us. It rises from failure of buildings up to lack of good production of agricultural produce, which is going to affect us seriously. So I think these are the few areas. My colleagues have spoken on the others. But I think it is very important and pertinent that we look at this sector very well and see how you can involve the private sector, even if they will charge some commission and then they will also pay you some commission. It is very important that these companies should be able to do that because it is their work that you are doing for them. If they were doing it right, nobody will have to checkmate them. So I think it's very important that you look at that. Let's look at the way of diversifying from the normal situation on ground and see how we can bring in new ideas to calm the ills of the sector.
Honestly, this committee is, for the first time, being exposed to what departments do, and we thank you, perhaps, for that new vista of opportunity. Prior to now, we were kept in the dark as to what the ministry did. We just were sitting on these chairs, not knowing who did what. And it's comforting to hear that, oh, okay, now you are responsible for running Nigeria. When I run from A to J of your objective functions. Now, we've mentioned here electricity meters, fertilizer, iron rod, cement, rice. And if I may put something poetically jovial here, even we as politicians, we are being cheated. You can laugh, but then you can listen. When I go and bag a trailer load of rice for Ilya Salah, which some of us have to do, picture 2 kg or 3 of rice off each bag, which is what we buy. And it's not funny. So I think there's a layer of problems here. What do I see? I see a lot of legislative activity for us. It's either it will be originating from the executive, because why am I saying this? Okay, you discuss oil and gas pumps selling petrol. You are in conflict with CPR. No, DPR. They are doing the same thing. That is cat and dog, number one. Number two, you are discussing fertilizer, SON. Rice, SON. Many other agencies, like, okay, meters, NAC. That one we have to fight. Because let me tell you a personal experience. The place I live here, I've been there for about 9 years. They sold me a meter in Abuja when I bought a house 9 years ago. I don't do meters. They just say, oh, this is your meter and this is how much you pay. So we paid. Last year, somebody decided, Abuja electricity decided that, my meter was not functioning well again. I said, it's okay. They say it's not functioning well. I must change it. They say it was con log, whatever that means. So they brought one by Mojek. Forced my wife to pay 73,000 naira for a meter that I paid for before, and then they forced me to replace. Mojek. So we had no choice. We paid. They installed it. Since they installed that thing, the rate of consumption of the new meter has been visibly faster. How did I know? I was the one paying I was the one paying the tariff before. I was paying more now. So I took it up. They said, well, that one was too slow for us. So the new one is it's okay for you. And it's not funny. Many Nigerians are suffering this. You know what else they did? They said to me, oh, even that faulty meter, the one that was too slow for their own cash, I didn't come to report. So they charged me for not coming to report. And I said, which law in Nigeria says that I must know that my meter is faulty? I don't do meters. I didn't go to study meters. So there are many issues, and it's a compendium. I think we should work about. Gentlemen, this committee will really want to suggest as follows. For what you do here, ranging from crude oil measurements to rice and fertilizer, you basically, what you are doing in the weight and measures, cause at the core, the jugular for the economy. Therefore, the weight and measure director said, okay, he's bringing a memo to you. You will soon authorize them, empower them to employ and all that. Yes, you may not. I put a note here. I showed my colleague here. I say, when you say controlling, monitoring, testing, and certifying all instruments used as retail outlet for oil and non-oil. So I put a footnote. I say, I put a footnote. I said, do you have enough staff in all states and towns then? Because for you to do all these things, you have to have a place, a staff in my village, in his village, in her village. So, but we can for now plead that the ministry, and I'm sure the principal is there, within 6 months, sir, by year end, December 31, we would like to see that you activate that weights and measures, what they wanted. I'm glad you said that you are already helping them, that we can really get this place up and running. Then our own side, working with you, giving us material, we will take up the need to address the conflicts between this government department and that one. People are fighting for territory, and the cities are suffering. You are going to fight DPR on this. By the way, sir, do you get into conflict with DPR or not? No.
There are a lot of things that need to be said. We are responsible for approving, for example, the volume of crude oil to be exported in the country. We sign on a weekly basis the volume. Not a kobo comes to the Ministry of Trade for that function. Not a kobo. We only sign.
So you perform a function, but you don't earn any income?
Yes, because whatever we should have obtained out of it, the Ministry of Petroleum looks at it as extra charges for the exporters. And for the ease of doing business, the only one to remove is that of our fees. So all our management fees is gratis. It's gratis. On a weekly basis, either the Minister of State or myself will approve the quotas to be exported. Yet no revenue comes back to the ministry.
You can take it up with us at this committee level.
Yes. And the other departments that I forgot to tell you, when we finish, I will just some of them that are seeded into other agencies. It's a very big ministry, but a very thin budget. We don't have any major capital activities.
Okay.
The only activities we do are meetings and travels and consultations.
Like a service ministry.
Exactly. But it harms us because imagine if you ask him how many vehicles he has in his system, I'm sure they're not up to 10. With the new 6 that we have added. And the new 6, it was a Herculean task to get that available to him and his team. How will that cover the whole country? Not only the whole country, the entire spectrum of the economy.
Okay, sir. So
This is the time that our interaction will bring in more improvements in the system. And I assure you that even from the little efforts we've made, we've seen improvements in revenue generation. That is why when I came as new PAMSEC, I told them you must increase your revenue base. How? All the available things that we could do in-house, we did. And that is what resulted in the 103% improvement you saw. That is what resulted in the 47.91% improvement you saw. In every aspect, we were hitting above our target because of little in-house improvements. So imagine if we had the mandate and improvements that we needed. This country will be better off.
Prior to now, your minister has been operating detached from us. I don't know, my colleagues, I'm learning about these things for the first time today. And I wonder, people wonder, even the chairman is so ignorant. Because we cannot force information out of you. But to the extent that we have a new understanding, I foresee still a lot of opportunity to do things together for the benefit of the country. Any of these items, for instance, if you put a big amount for, say, your ministry, we don't know about it. We go to defend the budget at appropriation. they're asking me questions, and I'm drawing the blank. They just say, well, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, if you cannot have that, you can't have X, you have Y. And that's the way it's been. Whereas if you were to engage us regularly like this, we would just go to them and say, no. We took them over, we took them up. They defended this, and then we educate them. There's no way we talk to them as a professional chairman or speaker or Senate president that they will not listen. But what we don't know, we don't know. So please, like I said, between now and the end of the year, we will really, God willing, we pray we will all be available to defend the budget.
Yes, sir.
We will begin to ask you, we ask you by, okay, what progress have we made for these greater measures? And we too, we try to tell you, me and my colleagues, we work on amendments to this law. But you are the one that will get us the bullet that we need. If you want us to put amendment in the SON Act that will free you to do something, you tell us the details. If you want us to tweak with the DPR Act or whatever act they are running on, we will. So when we start a referendum fight, after a while there will be clarity. Maybe they win some, you win some, but obviously we will take a step to ensure that all these lapses and interactions that are just, you have, just like road safety, Nigeria is in chaos. Police is checking papers on the road. Road safety is checking papers on the road. What do you call it? The one with the one.
Civil defense.
And they are all getting paid. They are all getting paid. You go to the average colleague's office, you see reports on agencies of government that are getting paid like 2 or 3 Qurans together. Payroll, nominal roll of Nigerians getting paid. So that is why the country is hemorrhaging badly. So we have to work with you, and we want to work with you. Thank you very much. Last item for the day, ICT. ICT. Yeah, internal record keeping I have here. Commercial law. Okay. We've taken fumigation anyway. Now we can take commercial law.
So tomorrow I want to also handle the money laundering.
Oh, you are competing with EFCC?
Yes. We have a department, and it is in EFCC. It's our department. My staff are there.
EFCC?
EFCC, yes.
Oh. Who knew?
You see the reason why. Interactive section with government department is very important.
In fact, we are the beneficiaries more than you.
Sometimes when you invite agencies or ministries, they refuse to approach the parliamentarians. If you are not here today, how do you know these informations? How do Nigerians know?
I have a detachment inside
that is part of EFCC.
Yes.
Even meter procurement and all the rest. How do Nigerians know?
Honorable sir, this is a new beginning, and I assure you, we will all work for the achievements of things in Nigeria.
Amen.
We are together. Before, the departments were working on their own. Now, I tell you, we have a good coordination mechanism. Not only within us, but with our parastatals. You will see us more, sir. Come and visit us. We will welcome you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, the Trademark Registry is statutorily responsible for the registration, administration, and protection of trademarks. This is one of the critical departments in the ministry that plays a key role in virtually all the core mandates of the ministry. If you talk about trade, you need to identify the goods that you are putting in the market. The goods that you identify, that identifying signal is called a trademark, the name that you give the product. If you are in an industry, whatever the industry produce, they must put in the market, and they put it in the market by means of a trademark. If you are an investor, like it is rightly stated here, you need to be assured that your product that you bring into any particular country or economy is appropriately protected, and you protect that by means of trademarks. We are a revenue generating department, and we have 2 systems of filing in the registry. One is called the IPAS, the Industrial Property Automation System, and the other is called the online system. The IPAS is a manual kind of system, and all revenue generated by the departments are collected through the TSA. We do not handle cash in raw form. Apart from registration, we also have a tribunal, which means the registry sits and hears cases on trademark matters. And appeal from this registry goes to the Federal High Court. Well, one of the new inventions that was introduced by the department under the leadership of the permanent secretary is that we have started publishing our law reports.
Sir, I would like to, I wish he had, I feel sad when I didn't see you in those registries. Those compendiums help Nigerians to know which business is legitimate. They are online, but we also have reference documents. I don't know if we have sufficient copies to give at least the honorable.
Yeah, we can make
They are
them
very
available.
expensive, but we make them in volumes. And as soon as we finish a trade dispute, a trademark dispute, everything is assured, we gazette it. And that rule has earned us international respect because of that reason.
May we request for a copy for each member, please? If you can just go like 30.
Each member will be difficult. It's expensive. We know what we have, sir. Permit me just to give you a set for the committee. That I can afford, sir. But beyond that, we'll come for appropriation.
In addition to also the compendium of the rulings of the registrar, we also publish the Trademarks Journal. The Trademarks Journal represents every application that is filed in the Trademarks Registry. And under Section 20 of the Trademarks Act is a notice to the whole world for any person who feels concerned that his trademark is being taken by another party to file a notice of opposition, which kickstart the process of the judicial proceedings before the registrar.
So we're in the process of improving the opposition court. The opposition court is a final authority in that direction within our system. Once the opposition is heard, rulings are given, it stands. Unless if somebody wants to appeal, then they go to Federal High Court. But it's a statutory court of its own. Thank you, sir.
In 2020, Mr. Chairman, we have published 4 journals, January, February, but with the lockdown due to coronavirus, then we shifted to May and June, and they are all on sale right now. We have, like I mentioned, published the compendium, and we are sitting regularly hearing, and we give out rulings. We have printed, through the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company, security featured certificates. This is another first from the registry, Mr. Chairman. Before now, we have been publishing in-house our Trademarks Journal, but the Permanent Secretary raised an important observation that our trademark certificate must contain specific features that will mark it out from every other certificate that is out there. So the security
every certificate, yes, every certificate has security features that are embedded. Nobody can fake them, and even if they are fake, there are some of the features which we reserve to ourselves. When the final, when there is trouble, we are the ones to identify those security features and delineate which one is fake or original. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we are also deploying a new mass storage filing system called the compactors. Due to the large number of files that the Trademarks Registry deals with, over 1 million, and like I mentioned earlier, one of the oldest departments, not only in the ministry but in the country, it has been in existence since colonial days. If you come to the registry and we visit the compactors, you will find a file of 1900, 1913, of trademarks that are still existing. We are in the process, and we have submitted memorandum on the digitization of the operations of the registry and also of its automation, and we are waiting for feedback on that from the management. We have several challenges. It has been raised here, the issue of manpower, the issue of power challenge, adequate budgetary allocation, and the retention of percentage of the revenue that we generate. We believe that we can triple what we generate today if only we are given the support in order, one, to advertise our functions by reaching out to the public and informing them of the importance of registration, and also by improving our services.
The way we are going, after completing the compactors, after collecting all the facts and putting them into journals, both online and hard copies, and people see the value. The next step for us, I told them we shouldn't go to publicity first. Let us improve our system and make it tangible. Right now we have things to sell and show people. By the time we do that, we'll be overwhelmed with people coming to either update their registration or those that have not done, and I assure you revenue will continue to flow.
If you submit any application for registration of food or drug, what NAFDAC asks you is, where is your trademark registration? And the Permanent Secretary has given approval for us to deepen this relationship between the departments within the ministry and also with ministers and departments outside the ministry, and we are going ahead with that this year.
Including some.
Thank you. And that hearing came out of a motion that the member moved for the concern in the unending influx of fake, substandard, and counterfeit products in Nigeria. It's become like a second nature. As well, yeah, look, and it should not be like that. Apart from cheating through weights and measures, people selling 40 kg as 45, there are also many issues that were of concern to us in this aspect of commercial law. And when I added, or rather the committee added, a bullet point to this oversight on record keeping, ICT, that was because we were concerned about the need for the kind of, shaping up that you now tell us is taking place. If you find how companies, agencies like this are making money in other countries, they are really minting money. Because why? They have the monopoly. When you go to the U.S. Copyright Office, which is an agency like yours. Yes, I know in Washington, I've been there, I registered something there before. You see, they don't have a queue because they have a process that like click. But you see how much money they are making. Why? Because whoever is in America that has to register something must go there. That's the monopoly. So if they find a way to do it well and fast, and don't delay, and just somebody comes from say Kaduna to Abuja and he has to spend 3 or 4 days in the hotel before she's through, then they will not come again. So those are the things what we had in mind when we said ICT/record keeping. So when we have the next oversight by the grace of God, this committee will come to your ministry to see all these things you told us this morning, to see, they said contact us. Well, now we are going to see for ourselves. We also want to make sure that there are no files lying on the floor anymore, the way we were told the situation was last year. PAMSEC, we want to thank you for coming.
I will start by saying that we operate under a law called Patent and Design Act.
Which page are you talking about?
Oh, I'm taking from page 35.
Page 35.
In as much as I don't have it handy here. We are operating under a patent and design.
34,
35 or 30.
36, 37, 38.
But I won't go through all of them.
Okay, it's 34 to 41.
Okay. So we operate under Patent and Design Act, CAP 344, Laws of Federation of Nigeria, 1990, though updated without review, CAP 2, P2 of 2004. The patent and designs is hinged upon industrialization, technology, innovation, creativity. Here we have problem because Nigeria is not an industrialized state. anybody that has invented something new or novel. And industrial design is the aesthetic value of a product. When you combine these two together with the trademark, you know that they are key to trade and investment. So just like my permanent secretary said, before 2018, it used to be a department, so a commercial law department. But 2018, late 2018, it was bifurcated, and I'm now the registrar patent and design, and my colleague the registrar trademarks. But I have a problem here because Nigerians, they don't know what is patent. They don't know actually what is trade designs, because they copy a lot in terms of design. There's a problem that came to my office the other day. This cap, Yangaran cap, is not registered. Therefore, it is not protected. The Chinese or whoever that comes can leverage on that and go and reproduce it. Just like somebody came with this Kogi national dress. I refuse to approve it because it's identified with the Kogi people. And she said, but she imported it. She just copied it and imported it. I said, no. In as much as it's not registered in my department, but I have to protect it because it's indigenous with Kogi people. The way I am going is that we need sensitization and advocacy programs to be able to reach out to the inventive ecosystem so that they will know what they're supposed to do. And more so, because when government hears sensitization, they will be thinking it's jamboree, but it's not. So that's why I still want to talk. Our functions are run down there. What we do, the overview and all that, my mission, my vision, the mandate. But I have problem. My challenges. Or before I go to my challenges, let me say my achievements. Before now, we know only trademark, but the Act says in Section 5.3 and Section 17.3 that after issuing a certificate, I supposed to publish the journal for people to know what that has been protected and stay away from it, or either oppose it because it is their the originality is there. But because I don't do that, I've met with permanent secretary and he promised me that he will do everything possible to get it done. Now, at the moment, I have about 7 volumes of journals. 2 is ready, 2 is in the process of bringing out the dummies so that permanent secretary will see it and criticize. And January 2019, we established, with the permission of the permanent secretary, we established what we called administrative panel. Because the law of patent and design is not elaborate, just like, unlike the trademark. And this administrative panel sits to look into petitions arising from what we have issued out. And these petitions, at times, they go to appeal. Our decisions, they go to appeal to Federal High Court as provided in Section 26. modify a little. But it didn't state step by step what to do. So that one is in the pipeline. I will, every incident that minister has to do a pronouncement before it can be published as a gazette. We are putting it together so that it will be robust instead of just registering. Then this administrative panel, as at early this year, on the 25th, we had a decision.
Then we have 5 more minutes.
Okay, sir. Our decision, the Federal High Court threw back a matter to us, which we decided on the 25th of February, and they used it to make their decision in court in Lagos. Thank you.
They do not have the necessary appropriation because of the split, so we'll hope to rectify that in our 2021 submission, but also in some of the extant regulations, extant bills or acts to protect, to give them the biting teeth. And that we will come up again to give them the necessary format so that they can hold court sessions to protect patents and design, and many other things that we'll submit. With your permission, we will do that in the next cycle of budget.
Your sensitization and advocacy, I think you'll have to start from this house. Honestly, because what you have been talking about, I don't know anything about it. I can't differentiate between the patent and design we are talking about and the trademark. So you have to start even from here, madam.
You take the shape of this bottle, it's a distinct shape. Yes. That is industrial design. The process of distilling the water and putting a purified water into the bottle is the invention. The same thing when you take your phone. The phone has a name. The name is the trademark. These are distinctive signs, and the world over, they are used to identify goods put in the market. From raw goods to manufactured goods, they must have a name. That is why Nigeria is a member of the World Intellectual Property Organization. And under the World Intellectual Property Organization, there is classification called the NIS International Classification for Goods and Services, which identify all the goods that you know in the world into several classes. For goods, 1 to 34, and for services, 35 to 45. Now, these are what are called trademarks. Marks, signs, symbols that identify goods. But when you invent a machine, something that works to achieve something, that is an invention, an innovation. You find this in research institutes, in industries that produce technology goods, is protected by way of patent. But if it is a shape, a configuration, a line, a drawing, a beautiful article, is an industrial design. Every item of this has a distinct provision of law that protects it.
The outcome of your research is supposed to be under patent. You have to be protected so that nobody will copy it, nobody will use your brain to market and have some good money. And also designs. Entrepreneurs, once you have designed, as an engineer you are here, if you design, you are creating. You have created something that is novel. It's first of its kind, it's fall under design. So these are the intellectual property that we're talking about. I just want to reinforce what the director has just said.
And I need to be educated because if you look at the use of logos in this country, there are so many logos in this country that they are not even registered anywhere. And many of those logos are part of the contractors that work for you, either for you directly as a ministry or for your agencies. And if you can only say that all logos must be registered, I think for this year alone, your revenue would be times 500%. So I think if I know the difference, then I will be able to know exactly what I need to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
When you see such an irregular logo or trademark, what steps do you normally take or have you ever taken to challenge them or take them to court?
Now, I am reinforcing what he has said, that when you are protecting books, literary and artistic works, they are protected by copyright. Logos are trademarks as defined by Section 67 of the Trademarks Act. These are, like I said, signs or symbols used to identify or distinguish goods. So every logo that you see out there is identified to a particular company and is for a specific function, and it is supposed to be protected by the Trademarks Registry. My permanent secretary once told me that if we are to operationalize the Trademarks Act, you will make so much revenue that the ministry will not even know where you will be placed actually, because you will be making too much. And it's actually true. The truth of the matter is that, one, there is no proper coordination between departments, ministries, departments, and agencies. I've given you an example with the one that we have started with NAFDAC. If we are to replicate that along all the ministries and departments and agencies and require every person doing business, for example, out of a House of Representatives, must show evidence that his mark is protected with the Trademarks Registry, that will go a long way of impacting on the awareness of protection. And the same thing with all ministries and departments that are doing certain roles and responsibilities when they require evidence of protection, because the awareness is low. Then secondly, sir, the act itself, which is one other issue that the permanent secretary has directed the Director of Policy Planning and Statistics to work on, is we are operating a 1965 Trademarks Act, which itself is based on a 1938 English Trademarks Act. And up to now, it has not been reviewed. We need to up our game in order to...
The second question, how do you decide when you see trademarks that look alike?
Look at infraction.
Yes.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Sir, you are not very good.
Sir, we have a procedure for that.
Protection of intellectual property is a private right, sir.
Exactly. It's not a
and that is why the Act provides in Section 20 that in Section 19, all marks that are received by the registrar, it must cause them to be published in a trademark journal. Okay. Publishing them in the trademark journal serve as a notice to the whole world for anybody who feels this mark ought not to be in the system to oppose. So unless you come forward to oppose a mark that is published in the system,
we have no...
So you regulator, if you see it like
let's do with the amendment of the Act.
Exactly.
If you give us enforcement powers, we will go ahead and enforce. But now, as it is, we either go to SON, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, or to go to Customs, or to go to police. I've been to police several times on issues connected with the protection of trademarks.
Or go to Minister of Justice to interpret. Sir, can I ask on this, sir? Yes, sir. The law currently gives us only the right to regulate these things, but when we see such infractions, we rely on the basis of the law which provides the right to the private person to raise an opposition. When the person raises an opposition, we have an in-house court. Yes. And we publish all our opposition hearings, and you see the compendia, we have them. So when that is done, it is resolved, we give the right to whom it belongs. Otherwise, we have no room to say, we have seen this, so we are holding that person responsible.
What I didn't know before, I saw it, just didn't know what it was. But now that you've spoken to me about it, now I know. The other day I was talking to my colleagues when they read all these things. I said, who knew? That is what lobby is meant to be. But you guys are operating in a manner of we against them. So you have us here. We don't even know all these things. I believe what we could do is start by realizing one thing. To make change in a system of governance like in Nigeria, for instance, it will be through the legal system. And you can originate it through the executive bill, which is a very long and protracted method. Sir, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a lawyer here. Because you have to go through vetting, then go to Attorney General, and then God will help you think you get it in 3-4 years. Everybody here, on the other hand, has the power to initiate a law. committee members, there can be private member bills addressing the same thing. And properly followed up, you get the same answer. So, honestly, I'm learning a lot of things that make me sad on the one side today and then happy. Sad because its potentials lying latent and waste over the years. And suddenly, we are now trying to unearth everything. Hopefully, if you can gain traction with it, maybe we are heading somewhere. This country needs help. We are sitting on a cake of gold. Yeah, we're not, because we are getting paid for working, do what you can. I ask you a question. If we were all in a corporation, if this was a board meeting for ABC Company PLC, we all be sacked. The board of directors will sack us. Not us, you people, that no wonder we're not making money. Because all the ideas are embedded in you, but you have not been seeing them out. So I think my first question is for this, Madam. My first salvo is to you. You talk about, no sensitization. The Bible says, my Bible says, how shall they know unless somebody tells them? Have you considered in your meetings, God DG, I'm perfect, the possibility of doing advert, or one, maybe you have a page, newspaper, that okay, there is a law about this and that, we can do this for you, like an advert. And also a warning that if you are caught doing something contrary to this, so because that is sensitization to me. So the question is, what have you done, or would you ever do, or are you doing now to sensitize the public about your existence in that department?
Okay, sir. So it still boils down to we'll now prioritize without actually knowing the in-depth or essence of the existence of the department. Before now, it's all trademark. But last year, with the cooperation of the World Intellectual Property Organization, we had two seminars and workshops in Lagos. One on PCT, that's Patent Cooperation Treaty, how you file it and all that. Then the other one in patent drafting. Because in the actual sense, our problem here is not only knowing the things that are patent, but how to draft this patent specification. That's the application you will use in filing these things. If they're not in the format it's supposed to be, and most times, people don't like disclosing everything because the law says complete disclosure on the inventive steps, that thing that is new, that thing you are protecting, that thing you are claiming, you need to disclose it in the application. Even those that have protected theirs, they will just go and hide the certificates in their boxes. But it doesn't work like that. You need to work that patent. You need to make it to work. Even if you don't have the capacity, with your certificate, your registration, you can approach an industry that can make it work. Even for us now, like now, most people don't know that if you know that somebody has registered patent and the person is not doing anything on your own, it is provided in the law that after 4 years of filing that patent or after 3 years of grants, issuing of the certificate, you can approach the court for you to work that patent. Just like in this era of COVID-19 pandemic, people are coming to our office. We are trying to register their concussions. I'm not using harsh word or being derogatory, yes, but benefit every one of us, just like that of pass herbals that is everywhere, that NAFDAC has approved, that it cures COVID-19. But in the actual sense, it is immune booster. Now, he has gone to register only the trademark. He didn't come to protect it. So that's why I still insist there must be sensitization.
Her entire unit department has no appropriated funding. And as permanent secretary, if I remove this and give this, it is violent. So we have to make do with certain extras that we have in overhead to promote some of our activities. But I assure you, once the department can be funded, it will serve as a stimulus. It will be catalytic by generating more revenue and making the people to know more about it. And publicity is very expensive. It's not something we can beg people to just add one thing on our newspaper. It has to be a calculated process to achieve the desired output or outcome. And that requires money. I assure you, sir, we have departments in the ministry. I tell them, I'm sure you remember when I came as a permanent secretary, I told them, I have been in public service for over 30 years. I came to this ministry. Many of the things I'm seeing, they're new to me as a federal civil servant. Yet these people have so much potential and energy and expertise. Many of them are being consulted by the world bodies. There is hardly a world body, WIPO, WTO, that a ministry staff is not recognized in his person or her person. All of them are here. They're international experts. But they are constrained by lack of necessary resources or by lack of necessary legislative or financial backing. But sir, I want to assure you that we have made giant strides, and I want to seek your approval. At the end of these submissions, I'll give you a short presentation.
Now, I want to know if Nigeria, by extension, your ministry now has a robust export policy. Thank you.
Oh yes, we do. Which is being handled by our agency called the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. But there are some other baseline policies that emerge on a day-to-day. When we do the conceptualization of new policy directions, consolidate the methods of its implementation or regulation, we hand it over to those agencies that we have, like Nigeria Investment Promotion Council, Nigeria Export Promotion Council. But the routine sensitivity to emerging needs is done by the ministry, and when we articulate the policies, we hand them over, and we make them holistic. We have a Nigeria Industrial Revolution Plan, we have a Nigeria policy, we have a Nigeria Investment Policy, we have a Nigeria Trade Policy, we have Nigeria, which is the other one? Two of them are under review. One is still in its lifespan. So maybe we'll give you the ones that are, we have these three of them ready. Two are under review, investment and trade. Nigeria Industrial Revolution Policy is already up and doing, and is in almost just after the midterm now. We're in the second half of implementation.
I have to thank you. I thank the press. I thank everybody. So this meeting is adjourned sine die.
Laws concerning trade agreements, the committee says, will be updated in line with federal government's policy of ease of doing business. Now, on the second segment of this program, Gender-based violence was the topic of discourse when the Speaker, House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, hosted a joint delegation of the United Nations and the European Union. House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, while holding discussions with a joint delegation of the United Nations and European Union on gender-based violence, says the House will work on the sexual harassment bill forwarded by the Senate.
We all have a collective interest, and if I may also add, responsibility to say no to the devastating occurrences of gender-based violence and harmful practices that are being reported every day in this country. Gender-based violence is a horrifying reality, especially in emergency settings. This includes conflict-related settings, as we have witnessed for nearly 11 years in the northeast and other parts of Nigeria. But sadly, also under health emergencies, as we have experienced in this era of COVID-19, where we have seen a steep increase, a spike, getting us to a place where we call the gender-based violence for the shadow pandemic. Gender-based violence is a human rights violation. It's a violation of the rights of women and girls in particular, but we must also remember boys and men can also be exposed to gender-based violence. It is a great concern for all of us because it has devastating long-term impacts on the health and psychosocial and economic well-being of the survivors, but also of their families, communities, and indeed of the nation as a whole. So I do want to take this moment to congratulate the government of Nigeria for all the efforts that have been made to address this increase, namely the setting up of the Sex Offenders Register, the establishment of a state sexual violence response team and centers, and also of the recent declaration of gender-based violence as a state of emergency in Nigeria. Having a conducive environment is a particularly important factor, and the 2015 VAP law is one of the instruments. But I would also like to congratulate the federal government under the auspices of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, undertaking the current review of the National Gender-Based Violence Strategy, which is supported by UNFPA. Mr. Speaker, let me stop and especially commend the passage of the Sexual Harassment in Tertiary Institutions Bill in the Senate 2 weeks ago. It is currently awaiting passage by the lower house. We have all the confidence based on your great leadership and foresight that there would be no doubt a speedy passage of the bill by the House of Representatives so that it can be promptly submitted to the President for assent. Mr. Speaker, education for the girl child is a key strategy for addressing gender-based violence, female genital mutilation, and early and forced marriage. With the Sexual Harassment Bill, young women and their families will have renewed confidence to invest in tertiary level of education for their daughters. Let me reiterate the commitment of the UN system in Nigeria to support the laudable efforts being made in Nigeria. As a system, we have supported the provision of essential gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health services in mainly, but not limited to, the northeast of Nigeria, restoring the dignity of thousands of women and girls, providing the much-needed psychosocial support in safe spaces, and providing them with hope for continued living. Through the support of donors, such as the European Union, the donors on the call to action on gender-based violence in emergencies. I also on Monday flagged off the second cohort 2-week course in which an innovative partnership with the American University of Nigeria aims to build the capacity of local actors to adequately respond to gender-based violence in emergencies. This is done in line with the localization agenda and as a sustainable method of building capacity to improve gender-based violence programming in the Northeast and beyond throughout Nigeria. The more recent and current European Union and United Nations Spotlight Initiative is indeed a global partnership. In Nigeria, it is in its second year, and is a flagship program that was launched by the UN General Secretary and the EU High Representative in New York to support the achievement of gender equality and empowerment of women and girls. It is complementing the efforts in humanitarian settings by extending the services for gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health services in development in 5 states: Ebonyi, Lagos, Sokoto, Cross River, Adamawa, and here in FCT. As part of that sustainability plan, the Spotlight Initiative is hereby taking advantage of this auspicious gathering to formally advocate for a separate budget line for gender-based violence to be included in the next appropriation bill. We all know that donor support can come and go, but with a budget line committed by Nigeria and a dedicated platform to ensure the coordination of concerted efforts and accountability of the release of the funds, such as at the Interministerial Gender-Based Violence Committee and the Gender-Based Violence Subsector Humanitarian Platforms. So on that last note, Mr. Speaker, we are also currently working on the concept to further articulate your ask for the partnership of the Spotlight Initiative in organizing an engagement for the State Assembly speakers with religious leaders in the country, aiming to address the bottlenecks that are delaying the passage of the Child Rights Law and the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law in the remaining states. So, Mr. Speakers, we as the UN system have also engaged with the Governors Forum, where the governors committed to domestication of the 2 laws which punish violence against women and children across all 36 states. That's the VAB Act and the Child Rights Act. It is setting up a sex offenders register in each of the 36 states across Nigeria. And it's the civil society working with the civil society organizations to address and expand on innovative strategies to address the gender-based violence pandemic in Nigeria. So I would like to end by saying that we, the United Nations system, stand by you and all of Nigeria to declare zero tolerance to gender-based violence and harmful practices, and aiming to end it now in Nigeria. I thank you for your audience.
As it was said already, and we agree that sexual and gender-based violence is the world's longest running pandemic. And I think, and we all agree, that may be the time to put an end to it, since with this program. We applaud, and we've been observing, and we applaud all the initiatives that were described here before, of the government and also of this House. And what I propose to do is a very brief sort of introduction of what Spotlight is. It's been said by your own people, but also already in the first speech. We, the European Union, we give a very high importance to these issues. And on many occasions, the ambassador, our ambassador, European Union ambassador, has had the opportunity to raise the profile of the issue. The Global Spotlight Initiative is the largest initiative of this kind ever worldwide. It will, the European Union has allocated 500 million euros, which in Naira is 250 billion, which is a tidy sum. It is a multi-year partnership, as it was said already as well, between us and the United Nations that aims by 2030 to have eliminated all forms of violence against women and girls. This, if it does happen, which we expect it will be a huge step on the way to gender equality. We know that Spotlight is a flagship initiative for Nigeria, as it is for us, and hence the availability of the funds, which for Nigeria, for the time being, is 25 million euros, which is 12.5 billion naira. We intend with these resources to help eradicate this scourge, and also to provide the, let's say, the seed money, so that we can work together, the authorities, the United Nations, civil society, and ourselves, in order to do so. We need to address the root causes of this violence, and I think this is from the technical people whom I've been talking to. That is the basic principle that must guide us. We need also, following that, to guarantee access to justice without discrimination. And we also need to ensure access to quality service for the survivors, and not just quality service for the survivors, but on a timely fashion. For this to happen, we would need to mobilize ourselves as gender champions, and we look forward, we, the European Union delegation, with all our support and resources, to sustain this engagement and incite all the parties to do the same together in the initiative. And I'll finish here. Thank you, sir.
My intervention is perhaps to make the point that the fight against gender-based violence is a very big one. It has so many dimensions, and I will take critical steps to look at the different dimensions, perhaps one at a time, even though the sequencing has to be very fast. There is one particular dimension that is a burning one. It's a very significant one, and has to do with sexual harassment of women and girls in our tertiary institutions. As United Nations and UN Women in front of this, we have been working with our Women Civil Society Coalition to bring this to the fore, and we've had considerable partnership with different stakeholders, including recently the Senate. We are proud that the bill to prevent, prohibit, and redress sexual harassment of students in tertiary educational institutions and for matters concerned therewith in 2020 were passed by the Senate. It is now in front of you in the House, Mr. Speaker, that you pass this into law so that this country, at all the different levels of its society, will take action towards that. Our appeal today, as it was made by the earlier speaker, is to take a very speedy action, and we have no doubt by your act, giving your demonstration of a continued commitment to ending violence against women and girls in this country, and in your capacity as one of the chief lawmakers in Nigeria. We also want to mention the fact that traditional leaders are important stakeholders in this fight, and therefore our engagement, reinforced by your support and your colleagues in the House, will go a long way to ending violence against women and girls in the different form.
Let me say from Jump Street that the well-being of a woman, I have always believed, is the well-being of a nation. We cannot underplay the importance of women in any society or in any nation. This is why we have taken in the National Assembly, in the House of Representatives, particularly the issue of gender-based violence as perhaps one of the more serious issues that we're facing and confronting head-on in the Ninth Assembly. We had a legislative agenda that we launched last year, but because of the advent of COVID, we have had to update and revise. And I'm featuring prominently in that agenda is this issue. The way I personally, and I've said this over and over again, for us to achieve maximum result in terms of eradication of this problem, I think we should look at it and look at it perhaps almost even scientifically. One, I've often defined it as a pandemic. And I define it as such, or I compare it, or say it's a pandemic because of the very definition of what a pandemic is. A pandemic is a disease that ravages the whole world. Let's just put it in straight terms. The issue of sexual-based violence, or rape, if you want to be more specific, is something that is permeated. It's not isolated to Nigeria. But we're in Nigeria now, want to deal with it in Nigeria. But it's world over, number one. Number two, a lot of it is based, I believe, has to do with your mental state. So if we accept these two notions, that one, it's a pandemic, and we should deal with it as such, the same way we're dealing with the coronavirus right now, the way we're giving it a frontal attack, we're going to get somewhere. Two, if we accept the fact that many of these guys, for want of a better word, that are involved in sexual-based violence and rape are probably not all there mentally. That's why I said scientifically. Then we'll also be looking at other measures to deal with the problem. Does it have to be all punitive? Or does it have to be curative? Do we cure the problem where you have situations where, because if you have somebody who is, even saying it, turns my stomach, who rapes a 3-year-old or a 3-month-old, he obviously cannot be all there. So sending him to jail does not even cure the problem, if it's a mental problem. There are those who basically are just perhaps perverted one way or the other. But there are those who also have what you call in legal terms depraved minds. And that's a mental illness. So I think in dealing with this disease, and if we accept that it's a disease, we should look at it holistically and in all its ramifications. If you do not give something, you can call it dramatic, you can call it whatever it is, but if you don't give it that seriousness, the same seriousness as you give first-degree murder, because if you're taking somebody's life away, it's not just necessarily physically. You can take somebody's life away emotionally. And if we don't deal with it in that, from that prism, we might just be scratching the surface, the problem on the surface. So that's how we have taken it in the House of Representatives. We devoted a whole day to debating this problem, and our members went as far, they were far-reaching proposals, and that's how just to emphasize how serious we took it. People talked about genital mutilation or castration. People talked about life imprisonment. People talked about death sentence because of the gravity with which we see this problem. But in doing that, we must also identify that in places like Nigeria, there are socio-cultural and structural problems that we must also handle very carefully. For some it's cultural, some it's religious, for some it's structural. But sometimes I've said oftentimes that those barriers are there, but I also believe that we can break down those barriers. Because no matter your religion, no matter your culture, there's some things that are universal. There are lines you just don't cross. There's no religion that will tell you that you can take advantage sexually or abuse a 3-year-old or a 10-year-old. There's no culture, there's no religion. So let's begin from there, and then we begin to pluck away bit by bit. You talked about the Senate bill But I can assure you that even though the House is going away on Thursday, tomorrow, for our long vacation, as soon as we come back, I will call for the transmission of the Senate bill. We'll look at it, probably and hopefully concur without adjustment. If we can even stiffen whatever is in there, we will do that. But we can be assured that the House of Representatives will very speedily concur with that bill upon resumption. Of course, the issue of funding. There's no way you can, like I said, it's a pandemic. We're dealing with coronavirus, we're dealing with a lot of money. And there's no way you can confront a disease such as this without funding. And hopefully in September, towards the end of September, I believe that the executive will send the budget to the National Assembly. And this is a one-line item that we will all be looking out for. I will make sure, and you can be sure that the women here will look at that budget with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that proper, adequate funding is for this particular issue is part of the budget. The women have been very, very proactive on the floor of the House. But I did something very interesting when we had that debate. I more or less shut them out of the debate. They all wanted to contribute. But I didn't want to make, and I say this again with all seriousness here, I don't want, and I'm glad that lots of men here with you, I don't want this debate to be about women. Even though it's gender focused, I don't want it to be about women. I want it, and I've said it over and over again, and that's why during the debate, I made sure it was the men that advanced the points. Let the men fight that fight and fight your cause for you. And it becomes something that we will all own and take ownership of. That this is something. It's about women, but it's not about women. It's about humanity. It's about humanity, and that's the way we intend to approach it. On the issue of domestication of the violence against persons, the 2015 Act and the Child Rights Act of 2003, my office has done quite a bit to sensitize the states. We had a conference with all the speakers about a month ago, thereabouts. And a lot of work is going on in that regard. The chairman of the conference of the speakers of the Northeast is from Bauchi State, I think Abubakar. He did promise at that conference that they will domesticate it in the act in Bauchi, and I'm glad to report that that has been done. And he's also sensitizing his colleagues in the North to do the same. I have written to them, intend to write to them again, and to give them a little nudge and push towards the domestication of those two acts. And I'm sure that with continuous pressure, that also will be done in most of the states of Nigeria. So there are lots of needles to thread, and we will not be found wanting. As far as the House is concerned, this is something we're championing. We're working with CSOs, we're working with NGOs, we still met, I think it was just two weeks ago, the group led by the First Lady of Kaduna State. They were here. We're working in partnership with them. And we'll just continue to push until we get to where we're trying to get to. The sexual harassment bill, the sexual harassment of students, that obviously is a no-no. But on a lighter note, there is also the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace. I don't know if you're pushing for that. Are you? Yeah. Okay. If you're pushing for sexual harassment in the workplace, you're going to have to do a lot of work. I don't know. I hear you snigger, but the reason why I say so, there's a lot of sexual harassment in the workplace, but we're going to have to get the definition very right, and that's where cultures differ from culture. You know, it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all bill in that particular case, because I see my colleagues, my female colleagues, Honorable Linda. Anytime I say, "Oh, Linda, I like your outfit. You look very nice today," all innocuous and very innocent. So if we use that same standard or threshold that is used in America and the rest of them, I'm going to be in trouble. Everybody is going to be in trouble. So whilst I support the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace, we have to look at what is the tradition. Now, we used to paying compliments in Nigeria. Is that what we do as people? So I look forward to seeing, it's that definition section that's going to be something we need to work closely with. So we know what bar not to cross, what line rather not to cross. I must commend you for the work you've been doing, that you continue to do, your collaboration with us. We look forward to a more sustained partnership, because this thing is probably, again, like I said, because it's some of it borders on mental illness, it's not going to go away just like that. So it has to be sustained. It has to be sustained. And so we look forward to a continued relationship. And I'm sure together we can deal with this problem that seems to have consumed us all. So this office is open to you. We want to work with you. We want to work with you to protect our women. It's very, very, very important. Whatever other piece of legislation that you think we need to address, we're here to do that.
This is where we come to the end of this week's episode of the program from the National Assembly. We thank you for your time, and bye for now.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has been declared by the World Health Organization as a global pandemic. While clinical trials are ongoing for a vaccine and a possible cure, there is no known treatment for the coronavirus. Nigeria has recorded some of these cases, and people are advised to take these preventive measures to keep themselves safe and contain the further spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use hand sanitizers all the time. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Do not panic. Stop the spread of unconfirmed news. Follow the official government news outlets and report all cases immediately. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Agebenu Omoha is a graduate of Benue State Polytechnic, Ubokolo, from the Department of Graphic Art. He's very passionate about his work and has made it a point of duty to add value to young and aspiring artists. He goes from school to teach different aspects of art expression.
This batik is being produced. The batik you see people wear, like the Yorubas and the Cameroonians wear most of the time, how they produce them. This is the processes on how they go about it. Like what you can see here are the materials. This is the one we melted. The reason why we melt this one is because there are some places you don't want a dye to absorb on the fabric. So you apply the wax on the fabric to make sure that the dye don't penetrate that place. That is the reason why we use the candle wax. As for the rest, they go together, but the candle wax stands alone. And for the brush you are seeing here, you can use the brush to use in making designs on the fabric. I'll spray the fabric and then we'll begin to apply the candle wax on the fabric. To dry for about 5 minutes, and then we'll prepare the dye stuff before we can dye it. Now this is the warm water. So we're going to mix our dye chemicals in. Before dyeing, you don't have to allow the water to boil very well, because if it boils and it's very hot, when you dip this fabric in it, it will melt the wax away. And then these are the dye stuff. We have two colors, one color, they are both green. So you pour everything in the water. Mix everything in the water. So the next thing you do now is to soak the fabric in the dye stuff that's already prepared. We are now soaking it. You can see the white area. That's the area of the candle wax. The candle did not allow the dye stuff to penetrate. To rinse it in this normal water. The reason why I'm going to rinse it is because of the caustic soda. If you don't rinse it, that caustic soda, if you use it and sew any cloth and then you put it on, when the sun becomes very high, it begins to itch your body. So that is the reason why I'm going to rinse it in this normal water.